Another attorney commercial with big promises? Millions of dollars, practicing law 24 hours a day, blah, blah, blah. Let's get rid of the smoke and mirrors. None of that really matters. What does matter? Having a medical doctor as your attorney. That matters.
Hey there, my friends. Welcome to Friday. Spring starts a little bit later on this morning. You are watching Mornings with Meister live here on Peaks2Plains Weather, the 24-hour channel on Roku, Fire TV, in the Peaks2Plains Weather app, on Peaks2PlainsWeather.com, and on social media. Everywhere you are is where I want to be. I am going to start off today with what is the biggest weather story in the area. The 24 fire burning off to the southwest of Colorado Springs, off to the northwest of Pueblo, got visible for a lot of you yesterday afternoon. We did some live coverage, and the fire making its own weather yesterday as we started to get the fire to burn hot in the afternoon, even though it wasn't a particularly windy day. When you see the smoke plume like that and you start getting the pyrocumulus, air above the fire is rising, and that starts pulling air in from the sides, and that what creates an issue for firefighters that are out there. So you can see this fire that was submitted yesterday, the smoke plume from near Peyton. And as we move into today, it is probably breezier right now on a larger scale than it's going to be later on today. And I'll show you what I mean here. We're starting at Fort Carson. Highway 115 is closed for a pretty good stretch between Colorado Springs and Penrose this morning. But see how the wind's out of the northwest at 12. Humidity is 22%. That's a function of the temperature more so than the dew point here early this morning. In Penrose, it is 58 degrees as we get the day underway. And, you can only get a couple miles to the north of Penrose before you run into that closure. So the fire at latest check is 670 acres. And like I said, Highway 115 is closed from Cherokee Drive around Fort Carson to 3 miles north of Penrose to County Road F45. And if I zoom in on this is the fire perimeter. And this is made via some infrared imaging from planes or helicopters that fly overhead. And so this is what the firefighters have been working in, some pretty gnarly terrain. You can see the canyon that Highway 115 is driving through there, and it has made it up onto the top part of that ridge. Now, if I zoom in here to Highway 115, see where the perimeter kind of gets next to the highway? That's probably where the fire started. It is listed as human caused. That makes sense. I mean, we haven't had any dry lightning or anything like that. But you can see that ridge here. And that has made for challenging, conditions for the firefighters, obviously. So now I want to talk about the wind through the day today. You can see this morning that the computer model has a real good handle on where things sort of are. And I want to go back actually to the beginning of that here because I want to talk about diurnal wind in southern Colorado. When there aren't big fronts coming into the area, and certainly on a day like today where this big area of high pressure, this big ridge is dominating the western United States, you get these small-scale weather patterns driven by heating and cooling of the terrain surface and the terrain itself that drives what we call a diurnal wind flow. And at night, the wind wants to flow off of the higher terrain into the lower elevations. Called a katabatic wind. And so you can see that the computer model matching what we saw in the observations there, showing the northwest breeze early this morning. Now I've got the streamlines on here for you in white. Watch what happens as we get into the late part of the morning. That diurnal wind starts to shift and the wind wants to start to flow up the terrain from the lower elevations up the sides of the mountains. And we start to see that happening somewhere between about 9:30 and 10:30. And that is going to produce a wind shift for the firefighters that are on the fire. Now, what's interesting through the afternoon is that the wind speed on the larger scale should be lighter by a few miles per hour than what it is this morning and what it was yesterday. But if the fire starts to make its own weather, like what I talked about, just because of how dry it is, how warm it is, and we start to get spots in the fire that burn hot, maybe because they run into a deeper patch of juniper or something like that, and you start to get vertical motion above the fire, The wind at the surface is going to flow into the fire to try to replace that air that moved vertically. And so that could make the speed or the gusts a little bit stronger than what you were seeing here. That's something the firefighters know. It's something that they're ready for. But as we move into the afternoon, another thing that may happen is we might get another little wind shift, a subtle one, sort of from the southeast more to the south, kind of drawing up the sides of Pikes Peak there. So there are some concerns for the firefighters today. The good news overall is that this is the lightest wind speed day out of Wednesday, Thursday, or what's coming tomorrow. But again, we'll be aware to some of the small-scale wind enhances if the fire starts producing a smoke plume like we saw yesterday here. If you see that, you know that the wind around the fire is a little bit stronger than it would otherwise be in that area. So that's what kind of we know about the 24 fire. Yesterday was a warm day, obviously. We hit 81 in Colorado Springs, 87 in Pueblo, 76 in Alamosa. The 81 in the Springs set the record for the day, tied the all-time March record. And in Pueblo, we broke the all-time March record. And we are actually going to get warmer here over the next couple of days. In fact, for tomorrow, I think we are going to smash what were the all-time records coming into this week. I've got us in the 80s and the 90s. So, crew, hope you're doing good so far on this Friday morning. Kathy says, good morning, Matt. These fires are so concerning. Thanks for the continued updates. Will you also update air quality? Yeah, I will. I'll work on that. I have to bring some of that into the weather system. The good news yesterday was that with the vertical motion of the fire, it wasn't all that bad. We were getting that up away from the surface. Some of that is down across the area here as the atmosphere cools down overnight and you get an inversion to form. Some of you might smell a little bit of smoke this morning, especially kind of in the Pueblo area with that wind coming off of the hills early this morning. I'll keep an eye on that. There's no air quality alerts or anything that I've seen. I'll double check that when we're done here. Letitia says, good morning from Tampa, Florida. Oh, such a great place. Heading back to the Springs today, not liking the fires I'm learning about. I agree with you. And Jennifer says, good morning. Okay, I'm going to take a short break. We'll talk about the detailed forecast today into tomorrow as we get set to blow the records out of the water and talk about a cold front on the way for early Sunday morning. That's coming up here in just a bit. Stay tuned.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed His grace on thee.
Here's to 150 years of the state we call home.
At Phil Long Ford Motor City, we've been around for 80 years. That's like 560 in dog years. Basically, we're the top dogs of Colorado. And thanks to our deals, selection, and service, we've earned some pretty loyal customers. And our GM, Mark, he's the most loyal guy I know. Even after I chewed up his shoe, it was delicious.
Great trucks, amazing deals, and belly rubs for dogs. Come see why Colorado drives Phil Long Ford Motor City. Hey guys, where's my shoe?
Emergencies are unpredictable, but you don't have to be unprepared. Peak Alerts sends you targeted emergency alerts in real time for the places that matter to you most, so you know what's happening and what to do next. Know first, act fast. That's the power of Peak Alerts.
If you're in El Paso and Teller County and you haven't signed up for Peak Alerts yet, you really should. I think the fires in the area, we had a couple other ones fire up yesterday, are a good reminder that you should have multiple ways to be notified of evacuations if something were to happen in your area. So peakalerts.org, everybody should take a couple minutes to do that this morning. You can put in the location of your house. You can put in the location of the kid's school, your place of business, some other place that might be of interest to you, maybe somewhere where mom or dad, if they're in an assisted living home or something like that. And then if any of those places have issues, you'll be notified through the authorities via Peak Alerts. Again, that's in El Paso and Teller counties. That's powered by a program called Everbridge. The fire, buttermilk fire earlier this week in the Wet Mountain Valley, residents were notified via Everbridge. So different counties are doing different things. You can look on your sheriff office website And that is a good place to start, I think. Check out with your Office of Emergency Management what they have in place to notify you should we get some issues. Yesterday, we also had a fire just to the southeast of Fowler. That one started in an agriculture area and then burned into the Apashapa riverbed. That one is contained this morning. There was also a small one off to the northeast of Alamosa. That one is contained as well. But it shows you, even on the days where we don't have a ton of wind, how sort of primed things are to burn and how dry the fuels are out there. So let's come back to the forecast here and talk about what changes between today and tomorrow. And the answer is the wind speed, because it is going to pick up in advance of the cold front that comes in early Friday morning. So overnight tonight, we're pretty mild in terms of the wind speeds. They're kind of strongest up against some of the terrain, also across the Raton Mesa there. So a few breezes here and there, but nothing that is of particular concern. However, as we move into Saturday, notice that the wind picks up out of the west through the mid to late part of the morning, first over the mountains, and then you saw it spread out across the plains into the afternoon. So it's going to be stronger tomorrow. It's out of the west, and it's stronger on a larger scale. So it's a higher fire danger day. Because of that, we do have red flag warnings that are up for a good chunk of southern Colorado. Not for the eastern plains, so not for Crowley County, not for Otero County, eastern Los Animas County, and areas to the east, because the wind is not going to be as strong there as it will be in the areas that you see kind of highlighted. And so those things go into effect in the late part of the morning, and they last until late Saturday evening, because there will be some poor relative humidity recovery because of how hot we're going to be tomorrow. So I want to zoom in on the fire tomorrow. So through the course of the morning into the afternoon, you can see that the model right where the fire is picking up gusts lighter than other areas. Now, I don't think I buy that. I'll tell you that. I think the speed around here tomorrow will be up around 15, 20 miles per hour. And I don't think the model is doing a good job of forecasting that. But I want to show it to you, and that's why you need a meteorologist to look at that and say, that doesn't make sense. There are many, many different computer models, and some of them are showing a little bit stronger than that, but that's the one I happened to pull in here this morning. So, okay, here's my forecast high temp for today. 83 in Colorado Springs easily takes the record out. 89 in Pueblo easily takes the record out. We're into spring, astronomical spring as we hit the afternoon. I want to say spring begins at like 9:36 or something like that. Some point this morning. I don't care what time it happens. But you see across the board, we should be a degree or two warmer than what we were yesterday. Now, as we move into the overnight, very, very mild again, but it takes all night long to kind of get to these numbers. So if you're doing something on the deck this evening, it'll be beautiful. Then tomorrow, with the increase in wind, we mix the air a little bit higher in the atmosphere, and so we get warmer. 86 in the Springs blows out the all-time March record high heading into this week, which was 81. Pueblo, we blow that record out of here as well, not just the dailies, but new all-time March records. Now, I did a thing about this the other day, and I wanted to talk about it here with you. If you are talking the all-time record for a month for any day, I mean, that's like the extreme, right? And so usually if you set a new one of those, you do it by like a degree, maybe two. To do it by 5 to 8 degrees shows you just how historically strong this ridge of high pressure over the western United States is. There was a place in Arizona yesterday in the western part of the state that set the all-time record for the United States for heat, 110 degrees. This is north of Yuma. I can't remember the location. But that's another sort of perspective help for you about how warm this system is. Then we get into Sunday, and there's a reality check as we back into the 60s across the plains. A couple spots might get to around 70, but a better chance of hitting 70 over the mountain valleys because that cold front is not going to impact us as much over the mountains. We'll cool back a little bit, just not as much. Fire weather index tomorrow. So I've got the wind speed on here, and then the fire weather index, which is a combination of the wind, the humidity, the temperature. And you see as we move into the afternoon, it gets it increases here. But if you remember from a couple weeks ago when the wind was between 50 and 70 miles per hour, the fire weather index on those afternoons, we were seeing reds, oranges show up. The scale kind of goes yellow to sort of a pale orange to a darker orange to reds. So it's not the most extreme fire weather day on Saturday, and that's because of the wind speed. But man, the humidity is going to be really, really low, single digits, bone dry air. So any fire that's out there, that wind is going to be really efficient at moving it. And that is why, I'm talking, excuse me, man, talking about that and wanting to make you aware of it. Okay, now let's take you into early Sunday morning with the front arriving. And it'll take until probably after about 2 a.m. And so, we stay breezy tomorrow night ahead of the front. But then here's when the front comes in prior to sunrise for areas north of the Arkansas River, and then just after sunrise for areas to the south. And 25-degree temperature drop, you're going to notice that wind moving around. We'll get some gust in a few areas between 25 and 40 miles per hour through the early part of the morning. And then again, Sunday is that cooler day. We look into the future. We're still in the 60s and 70s on Monday. I think we're a little bit warmer than what we are on Sunday. But this system is also going to bring in a little pocket of some instability. And I've been talking about this for the last couple of days. I'm not excited about moisture chances. They certainly aren't significant, but I want to make you aware of them because the pocket of cooler air aloft produces just a little bit of instability. So watch for the clouds to build during the day on Sunday. Watch for perhaps a sprinkle or a brief shower in the vicinity of Pikes Peak, maybe somewhere else over the mountains as we move into Sunday evening. But you can see there, that's not that significant, right? Then as we head into Tuesday, we warm up a little bit more. Wednesday is a higher fire danger day. Thursday may be as well. As another cold front approaches, you see the temperatures drop as we move into next week. And again, there might be a stray shower with that thing next week. Nothing to get excited about. But those couple fronts do bring at least a day here of some relief from some of this heat. I think we're talking records again next week. Pueblo, I've got us in the 90s for Wednesday again, and then a 30-degree drop or so by the time we hit Friday. So obviously ahead of fronts that's strong. And as they're moving in, you get this increase in fire danger because the wind picks up. And that's driven by the jet stream that's well to our north next week, but the systems are strong enough that they impact our weather. So let's watch those things move through. You can see the first system moving to the north over the weekend, kind of flattens the ridge a little bit, pushes it off to the south a touch. The system for next week, ahead of it, the ridge builds back in. That's why the temperatures go back up. That system for the middle part of next week probably produces some stronger wind than this first one does. It's a little bit stronger on the jet with it, and so we'll watch for that cold front to move in maybe during the day Thursday, and we get the cooler effects from that on Friday. Is moisture going to be significant with this? I kind of already gave you the answer in the extended forecast, but I'm going to show you here. I'm going to just run a computer model out from right now into the future of next week. If you catch one of those showers on Sunday, it's not going to be all that impressive. As we move into early next week, we don't really get much of anything anyways. If you catch something, not significant. So that's kind of how our forecast looks. For those of you that may have just joined, I'm going to talk about the 24 fire one more time before we get you off for the day. Brock says, thanks for keeping the community informed. You guys know Brock. You remember him. If you watched Fox 21, that's Brock's breakdown. Brock, it's taken me a while, but we're going to get the breakdown fired up, buddy. I appreciate that. If you are watching this on social media right now, would you go ahead and share it? People can watch it after the fact, and I want to give the detail about that fire. I want to make people aware of the detail that I'm providing here with the time that I have. I should have said that early on, but if you would share it before you kind of hop off on social media, I would appreciate it. So we're going to come back to the 24 fire. We're going to wrap up with this today for those of you that may have missed it. Yesterday, obviously, the fire started making its own weather. A lot of us saw that smoke plume. It grew in size a little bit yesterday. Yesterday morning, it was about 65-ish acres. It's at 670 acres now. So obviously it had some growth with that smoke plume. But when you see a smoke plume with a fire, you have convection that's happening above the fire. The fire is hot and the air starts rising. It's the same process that produces a thunderstorm, actually, my friends. But as the air at the surface starts to go up, air around the fire comes in to replace that. That enhances the wind speed a little bit from what it would otherwise be. And we may have an issue with that out there today. Fort Carson right now, it's 51. We've got wind out of the northwest at 12. Penrose, it's 57. Wind is out of the west at 12. And on the larger scale, it's probably higher right now than what it's going to be later on today. I'm going to show you that here in a second. Highway 115 remains closed. Again, the fire's 670 acres. The closure of Highway 115 is over a pretty big stretch from 3 miles to the north of Penrose to Cherokee Drive on Highway 115, which is right around one of the gates of Fort Carson. I can't remember the number of the gate because I don't remember looking at the road of Cherokee Drive. But here is the official perimeter of the fire. This is done by aircraft flying over the fire and doing heat mapping. That's how they know where the edges of the fire are. You see that ridge just to the east of Highway 115? The fire wanted to flow up that ridge. It kind of acts like a little sort of chimney effect. And so it's been sort of up on top of the ridge there. This is on post at Fort Carson. If I zoom you into Highway 115 a little bit, see the northwestern edge of that fire? That's probably where it started. It was human caused, was probably from something automobile related that happened on Highway 115, either a chain from somebody pulling a trailer that was on the ground and threw some sparks, or somebody chucking a cigarette, or who knows what, but it was human caused. So I'm going to widen the view out now, and I want to talk about what the wind is going to do here today. In the morning, you get wind out of the northwest when you have a benign weather pattern like we have right now in this area, because there is a diurnal wind flow that, unless there's something on the larger scale overriding the terrain features in southern Colorado, we get some pretty persistent, well-timed out wind shifts. That's kind of like a sea breeze, to be honest with you. It's sort of the same physics that's happening, because differentially, the mountains in the morning as the sun comes up heat up faster than the plains. And when I say differentially, it's comparing different levels of the atmosphere. So what you get in the morning, where we are right now, let me go back to this, is flow off of the higher terrain down to the lower elevations. At some point this morning, as we start to heat up, it usually happens around 10 o'clock, and you can see the computer model picking up on that here, we get a wind shift, and the air wants to start flowing up the sides of the terrain. Firefighters know that. Meteorologists that are helping the firefighters know that. I've been texted about that over the years from firefighters. Hey, what time do you think that's going to happen? It's somewhere between about 9:30 and 10:30. And so then we'll have a sort of southerly southeast component to the wind. And there might be a couple of wind shifts in the afternoon. Actually, since we just started this, I've got a new model run here that's showing something a little bit different than the early model was. It had a second wind shift in the afternoon going from kind of the southeast to the south-southwest. This new model is now doing it out of the northeast. So it's going to be a little bit erratic back in there. But the firefighters are going to plan for a couple wind shifts. One of the reasons it's so erratic is the terrain back in there. There's some real small scale stuff that happens that's hard for the models to figure out. And since the large scale weather pattern is kind of weak, that's why it's kind of doing different things from run to run. But I do know that that sort of larger scale diurnal wind shift is going to happen later on this morning. Then some of that smaller scale stuff into the afternoon, we'll have to wait and we'll have to see. So that's kind of what I'm concerned about the fire. Let me show you, for those that missed it earlier, what's going to happen tomorrow with the fire, because we have a larger scale weather thing that is going to drive the fire. Now, early in the morning, I still think we have that northwest flow off of the hills. As we hit the afternoon tomorrow, and we're not seeing the streamlines because that new model data is coming in, the computer, notice the difference here that this model's picking up in the vicinity of the fire versus what's happening in Canyon City. I don't think the model is representing this very well. I think the wind speed is going to be a step up tomorrow in the vicinity of the fire than it is today because of that larger scale weather pattern. So that's why if you're looking at a crap app on your phone, like the default weather app on your iPhone, this is why you need a meteorologist, because you can't just look at model data and say, oh, yeah, that's what's going to happen. Remember that snow some of you woke up to on Sunday, last Sunday? There were some models that had no snow in the forecast. This guy had snow in the forecast starting on about Wednesday of the previous week. I was hitting that pretty hard. I mean, you need a human being to look at this and go, does that make sense? What's happened in the past? I think the wind speed tomorrow around the fire is probably up around 15 to 20, maybe a little bit stronger than that. So any questions from you? If you want to join live, if you want to talk about some concerns, you want to ask some fire questions, you can do that. Sally did say that she wanted more info on the fire. Sally, hopefully that was helpful for you there. The reason she's concerned about it is she says, I live a mile north of the fire and have been stressed out all night. Sally, I'm with you. I understand why you were stressed out. That's a long ways away. If you are a mile north, I wouldn't be overly concerned about that. Because when the wind is stronger tomorrow than it's going to be today, that fire is going to be blowing away from you. And so you're okay, Sally. Just take a deep breath. You're going to be fine. Pay attention for sure. Download the Peaks2Plains Weather app if you haven't as of yet. I will be, watching that really, really close through the day today and tomorrow. I'll go through that with you. So if there is something, if it starts moving in some really unexpected way, Sally, I'll let you know about that. Carol says, thanks for all the good info on the fire. Teresa says, I heard it was a private control burn that they lost control of. I have not heard that, Teresa. I'll check with some firefighters. They may give me the answer and may tell me not to share it publicly, but with where that started and how that looks, I'm not sure. I would doubt that. Jennifer says, we were getting ash falling in Fountain last night from the fire, even with the light wind. Yeah, I mean, you look at what was happening yesterday, that's not surprising to hear. A lot of particulates there getting up into the atmosphere. And what happens at night is the atmosphere, during the day when we heat up, the atmosphere, lower layers of the atmosphere expand and it mixes. We turn it over. And today we'll be doing that at a pretty good height because of how warm we'll be. But then at night, the atmosphere cools down and what we call the boundary layer, it decreases and gets smaller. And that's probably why you were getting that ash falling in your area. That is not surprising. Sally says that, thank you. We're hoping for the best. It's downloaded. Sally, I got you. We'll take care of you here. Jeff says, back home from Texas. Wife's been in Illinois, so a little bit chaotic, but been following. Let's see what else we got here. Any more info on the fire? Yeah, that's kind of it on the social posts here early this morning. So I want you to write these down because a couple of you joined me yesterday. And these are links that I have made to help you join me on the show when you have something to share or if you have some concerns. I can answer your questions directly. Everybody would see the conversation, but that's what this is about. It's our weather together. So take a moment and write these down. And then I'm going to recommend that you put them in your phone as a contact. Put it in as P2PWX, Peaks2Plains Weather. We use, news it's kind of like restaurants. If you've ever waited tables or if you've cooked in restaurants, CX is a short for chicken. WX is kind of a short for weather. So you can put P2PWX in there. But if you write these down, put them in your phone, put them in as the website or something like that, and then you click it, it will open you up to a web browser. In fact, I will do that with you right now. Let me go into my web browser here in my production software. And let me put that in. Let me see if I had that saved. No, I didn't. But I'm going to put one of them in, and I'm going to walk you through what this looks like, okay? So give me a second. Okay, and we'll load that up. Okay. If you put one of those in, here's what it's going to look like. So I have put the second of the two in there. It's vmix.at/small z, small m, capital S, small j, capital K. And then you put your name up in here and you can join call. Now, what I think is better is, this is a new feature, is to actually click up above that for the advanced call features, because in that one, you can switch your camera around while you're on with me. We talked with a lady yesterday. Oh, I can't remember her name. I need to write that stuff down. She was in security and she was trying to turn her camera around, you know, like you can do on FaceTime. But with this new feature, you can do that. So if I click on that, it kind of takes you into some different programming. And then when you click join call, it would allow you to do that. Now, I'm going to do this because it's fun and we're live streaming here and I don't have the, you know, I can do this as long as we want this morning. So now I'm going to put that into my phone and I'm going to show you how easy it is. Okay. So I'm going to walk you through this process because I want you to do this later. So while I'm doing it, you write these down. Okay. All right. I'm going to do the advanced one. Actually, I haven't been into that one yet, but I'm going to check it. So I click join call. I click allow, and whoops, I need to turn the volume on my phone down. But this is going to freak you out. This is too many mats. Okay, so now I am on. This is how easily you can do it. You saw how quick that was. In this new software, let me see how I can turn myself around here. Because like I said, I haven't done this yet, and I don't know. I'm going to have to play with that. I can't figure it out. I'll work on that. I'll provide some instructions. But that's how easy that was. Okay? So, our weather together, this is how we're going to do it. I'll do a push alert on the Peaks2Plains Weather app describing all of this here in a little bit, especially when I figure out how to switch the camera around, and I will push that to you. So, get ready for that because, you know, if you're in an area where you see flames or something like that, I mean, maybe not in this fire because there's no neighborhoods in the area, but if we get something else, you can help your neighbors out. You can help me cover it. And this is our weather together. It's neighbors helping neighbors. That's kind of the concept. So, crew, let me see if there's any other questions anybody has. I think we're good here. That means I am done for the day. Hope you have a good one. Let's pray for our firefighters that are on the line doing really important work. There are firefighters from across the region that have gone to help. I know the SoCo Wildland team was in the area. Firefighters from Fort Carson are there. Some other firefighters as well. We'll keep all of that updated through the day today. Otherwise, it's a pretty good day. I'm going to show you Banjo's barometer for today because, you know, really to be outside, it is a good day out there today. He's going with a 10 for the third day in a row. So my friends, if you would share this before you hop off of it so other people can watch it after the fact and get some of that information, I would appreciate it. I hope you have a great day. If you're really into the NCAA basketball, you know, it was a good day yesterday. I watched a couple games last night, stepped away from Peaks2Plains Weather for a little bit. Keep an eye on things today, my friends. I hope you have a good one. Please tell your friends about Peaks2Plains Weather. I would appreciate it. And, you know, one of the things that I get to do here is some in-depth, long-form coverage. And when the weather is nasty or when you have concerns, it makes a difference. Have a good day.